massively successful brands that have been in the market for many, many years, and they are killing them. It's quite phenomenal. So that's me. Just to sum up, to keep it on time, I'd say just to clarify again some of the points I was making there. So the first one is mentioned trust, the issue of does your consumer believe you? Do they actually believe what you are saying to them? Are you telling the truth in your advertising, if you're advertising, or in your commercial messages, whatever they may be? Are you overclaiming or being reasonable, open, and honest? Are you conducting open, honest, realistic, transparent pricing policy? In terms of targeting, are you targeting on a cross-generational basis? Are you realizing and thinking deeply? And again, it's just so obvious, but it's amazing how few brands do this. Thinking about your cross-generational consumer, or thinking about consumers that you haven't dealt with in the past, particularly the older consumer that is increasingly ignored by just about every advertising agency out there, and trying to think about what it is, what are their needs? What are their needs when people in their early 70s were the original teenagers who've never lost hold of that youthful, progressive, open-minded, forward-looking mindset, and yet Adland thinks that anyone age over 40 is basically deaf and a bit stupid and has completely sort of a closed mindset. It's phenomenal how few brands pick this up, and it's so obvious. This issue of modern lifestyles, people not living on an identikit basis, so hyper-personalization, hyper-fragmentation is the new version of where one's been in the past. Mass markets have stagnated. Nobody is interested unless it's on an incredibly low-cost basics basis. The idea of packaging, again, that most obvious point, it's still stunning in terms of how vastly important packaging is, how few brands outside of Japan, the greatest packaging place in the world, package beautifully. And yet in terms of a real point of distinction, differentiation, it's incredibly important. And then finally, those points I mentioned just now, the fact that the modern consumer, really clear global trend, is ever more impatient. Nobody's got any time. They're constantly saying, get on with it, give me what I want now. And on the back side of that, especially on the sort of the polarization to that, this issue of how many brands really understand the issue of stress that consumers are feeling and are helping them to deal with that by delivering calmness and openness and simplicity into their lives. That sort of thing is so welcomed by consumers, and it's amazing how few brands do it. And then finally, as we all know, this issue of disruption. One thing that consumers, people, are totally open to in a modern environment where so few brands deliver what it is that they want, when, as I started by saying, people nowadays, more demanding, more discerning, less satisfied, less unified, people are totally open to new offers, be it from a local franchisee in one city, in Beirut, or be it, again, a global car brand, etc. But anyway, as a very, very quick run through, that's me, and I say I really want to talk about motivation. And by the way, I hope you'll notice I'm still wearing my excellent thing that I was given last year when I came here, which I think also had that great motivational saying, Lo Chu Ma Sa. Thank you. Well done.